Well, hello everyone. Hello, Vlad. And hello everyone in our audience.
Hello there.
So today we have a special one. I mean, every Demystifying Post-Production is special. And our guest is Vlad. And Vlad does a lot of motion graphics work. You're a motion designer, I would assume. Is that what you call
Yeah.
yourself?
Motion designer, creative director, art director. It depends on the project I work on. Sometimes I save the day doing motion design work, UI, UX. Another day I work directly with clients as a creative director and pitching the projects. So it depends.
So
It
you
depends
wear
on
many
what the
hats.
client needs.
You wear many hats. And anyway, just after my housekeeping, Vlad is going to show us various scenes that he prepared. And as far as I know, you prepared some examples for us, and
Yeah.
you've been quite involved in the process of developing the particles as well. So, and we are grateful for that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Oh, always our pleasure.
Big
Always our
pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure.
So let me add my screen so I can do some housekeeping here, which is part of the whole thing. And what I'm going to bring up now is this little QR code that, that will take you to this page over here. And just so that you know, just take a snapshot of this. If you're watching it later, you can just take a photo of that. Let me remove this. And this is the Maxon.net ask your question, and you can ask questions here. And it also has information about upcoming live streams and so forth. And I didn't do my sound check. I assume that everyone can hear me because no one is yelling. And the overall Maxon events page is this one over here. Oh, and let me start pasting some links here as well. So I'm going to go. I'm doing producing today, so I'm going to, as I tell everyone, I'm going to do a lot of mistakes. Maybe I do it on purpose. I don't know. So I'm going to post the links, the Maxon events page where all the interesting stuff is happening. My advice is retire from being artists and just become a hobbyist. Buy Cinema 4D, buy a Maxon 1 license and just spend your time learning and having fun. Now, if in the event that you miss one of our live shows, you can always watch them live on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel, which I'm going to post over here. And of course, you can catch the shows live on the Maxon Training Team channel and the Maxon channel. So let me paste this as well. Everything is a copy paste away. And we have excellent content on all our channels, including the ZBrush channel. And I want to advise everyone, I always give advice. I'm that old. Go learn ZBrush. That's my plan. If you want to become certified, you go to the certification page. And amongst other things, you'll find under the elementary, oops, not the elementary, but the C4D Pro user, this certification topics link, which will bring up this page. And here we have general topics, which we think are the most fundamental things for you to learn Cinema 4D. And of course, you can go and grab for the month of, well, this week and the month of May, a free T-shirt, courtesy as a token of appreciation for hanging out with us and asking your questions and joining us. The code is Particle Magic, all caps, no spaces. You only pay for postage, packaging, folding, ironing, washing, and all that. They're all new. Go to the Cineversity. Oh, I didn't paste this. I need to paste this as well. Boop, 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 boom, boink. Do you like my sound effects, or shall I stop them? So, Cineversity. And of course, the last few weeks, we posted quite a lot of stuff on particles. And I've created 3 series currently, and more tutorials are coming. Just being too busy. And I even dedicate the quick tips for the foreseeable future on various things about particles. So just go here and check out. And of course, if you go to the old Cineversity.com page, you'll find timeless tutorials that, although you'll find that the interface has changed significantly, the majority of techniques and technologies are pretty much the same. So it's a good opportunity for you to learn all sorts of stuff. We have upwards of, I don't know, 10,000 videos, even more. And if you want to learn the ins and outs of highly technical things like deep dives into MoGraph, go and check out Dr. Sassy's tutorials. His tutorials are timeless and his knowledge is unbounded. Okay, so I think I'm done with this. I can bring up our beautiful faces here again, and I can close some screens and all that. Did I paste everything? All right, a couple of requests. If you have any questions, please preface them with capitalized question. So I'll be monitoring the chats. And in case you have a question, let's keep, if it's possible, the questions relative and relevant to particles. For other subjects, we have the Ask the Trainer and other series as well. Of course, you can ask your questions using that form. And yeah, put the question. It just helps me distinguish the questions from general comments and yeah, nice compliments and stuff like that, which we receive so many, Vlad. You have a great time here. Now, if you do want to ask a question, you can always find me or Jonas on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call that. And yeah, I'm pretty responsive. Jonas is as well. Simplify your scenes and ask your questions concisely. Excellent. And I think it's time now to share Vlad's screen. There you go, and make our little faces smaller. I'd like to move them somewhere else. Maybe there, or none at all. Anyway, so Vlad, what are you going to show us today?
Today, I think I would like to show the most effective scenes that represents the latest features of the Cinema 4D Particles system. That is quite a marvelous update for this software I've been using for so many years. It opens up so many opportunities in Cinema 4D and simplifies the entire pipeline. Because it's like the unified system. It works perfectly with the standard simulation tools in Cinema 4D, like Cloth or like Pyro. So there are so many opportunities of how I could use it in my pipeline. That's why I'm so excited to push it even further. I'm still like following the learning curve, and there are plenty of things I would like to explore a bit later. But today I would like to show the scenes I was able to put together for the latest Cinema 4D release, where I tried to cover as many different deformers, modificators, and see what I could come up with to better represent the software and the features. And to start this presentation, I would like to jump into this scene. It was, I suppose, it was the second scene you could see in the trailer, where the particles get just somehow sucked in the tornado, like a vortex, and then they just pull apart, exploding, and forming very nice, very organic shape, and then they come together again. So this is how it looked. I think I'll just take the camera. So in this scene, I used like the circle spline as the main emitter. So I wanted to make the animation a bit more organic, so it's not just static like spline. That's why I also put the displacer deformer, so it can have some fluidity in motion. And when I simulated the particles, I used the spline emitter, which works just perfectly here. So I set the scene from simulating quite a lot of particles. As you can see, the rate is massive. So at the very beginning, I had 350K. And then at the frame number 40, it just drops down to 40 and then to 0. And then the particles suddenly start getting sucked in towards the center, the composition, I'm making these quite nice and beautiful trails. So as you can see, we have quite a few particles here. And then we have a little explosion here when the particles start interacting with each other. I can also turn this off. And they also change the color, because I wanted to have this beautiful explosion where the colors also would be like changing the intensity, the brightness, also the emission. So let's try to take this frame, for example. The scene is quite heavy, this one. And then we'll activate this camera. Let's see how it looks. Right. I go to the Redshift render view. And let's see how it looks. So this is the preview render of the scene that hasn't been rendered yet and composed in After Effects. But in here, I would like to show you just the pipeline and how it all works. To better represent the colors, I decided to use the color mapper, which is a very, very nice tool in Cinema 4D, because you can use so many properties. You can take the age, alignment, angular velocity, distance traveled, or lifetime. So basically, the older your particles become from the moment they are emitted, yeah, the more they change their color. In my case, I decided to take the velocity. So basically, the higher the velocity, the higher the change in color. So in my case, I had the like turquoise color, then we had blue and magenta. Very nice and beautiful transition along the color spectrum. So you can see the change in color here. It also looks quite nice and granular, because I also wanted to see like the shadow and density in shadows and shades here. If I used smaller dots or like the sprites, it would look more like dust. I wanted to have a bit something more dense, where I could see the structure of the simulation. So if we go to this frame, you can see the sudden change in color. So the particles start exploding, and they also start reacting to that change in velocity. And the most intriguing part of this simulation was using the flock. I think, in my personal opinion, the flock modifier is one of the most powerful and unique modifiers I've ever seen. So there are so many opportunities how we can change such like settings like cohesion, separation, velocity, alignment. Just basically just playing with these settings, you can achieve so many different results. And for me, it was more about like being in the sandbox, just piling different settings together, previewing, to see what happens. Because I didn't have like a particular agenda. I knew that I wanted the particles to swirl in this beautiful tornado and then somehow explode, but I didn't know how the structure should look. So it was more like experiments I could just explore along the way. And in most cases, this is how it works. Even though if I haven't have a creative brief, I never know how exactly I want the particles to look. So it's more about eyeballing to see what works and what doesn't. So it's like clear experimentation for me. So yeah, if we play this animation from this angle, I also put a lot of attention, a lot of focus on camera work. So imagine if we just had one single static camera that would be facing the center of the composition like this, and we just zoom out. The animation starts losing this density. It looks a bit underwhelming, if that's the right term to use. So I decided to give the camera a bit of motion. So the camera starts closer to the center of the vortex, and then it just starts slightly moving. revealing the structure. So we start from a bit, we get close and down to this explosion, so we could see the plane of the simulation, and then we start zooming out, panning the camera, and slightly rotating, spinning the camera to show the structure from the different plane, from different point of view. Just very subtle movements, nothing too crazy. But you can see that the particles, they explode, but the camera actually somehow follows the simulation, the explosion. So for me, it's always about the camera work. So if I go to the Redshift render view, you also see that I used heavily the bokeh, because bokeh brings this, I don't know, like the depth in like each shot. Imagine if I just turned it off, it would look more like a Milky Way because of the vast space. Here, I wanted to have like a little granular effects, and if I took a closer shot with the real camera, we could see like the change in aperture, the depth of field. So I decided to achieve something similar to that. Yeah, so this simple, I decided to keep a bit simple. So I took the attractor from the simulation forces graph from here. I use Attractor and Turbulence. You will be able to see these settings in so many scenes. I'm going to show. In this case, I use rotation. But usually when I use rotation, I want to avoid a very linear movement of the particles, because they would just move in with the same velocity, with the same speed. It would look boring. So I decided to put the shader field, and this is what I like about particles and how the new unified particle simulation tool actually works with the C4D fields. I find it very useful. So here I used noise, and the noise was animated, so it's actually changing. And actually, with the shader fields, when you have noise, it takes the information from white and black. So black is 0 and white is 1. So basically, the brighter the noise pattern, the more effects would be in action. And I didn't want to particles just move in one single section. That's why I decided to animate the shader fields, and that's why it was ever changing along the whole timeline. You can't see these effects here, but you can see that it's actually just starts moving slightly slowly in some certain areas, and others move a bit faster. This is what shader field helped me to achieve. Also, I use friction. The beginning of the particles simulation, the exposure was a bit it works more like an overkill. I wanted to slightly slow down the explosion. That's why I also adjusted the friction, and then would just start slowing down again and again. So friction for me works more like the slow-mo tool. It's very hard to explain, but it's more like the air density. You somehow increase the air density and particles starts moving slowly. Then you decrease the strength of the friction. The particle starts speeding up again. I really like this movement in velocity. So it just suddenly slow down, then speeds up. That was the idea behind this particular scene. And we can take one more look at the preview render, and then I'll just jump to another scene. This is how it looks. Also, I think, yeah, I use some color correction. This is what I also do in C4D, because instead of adjusting the colors in post-production, I can make some color tweaks in C4D. So you get a bit more vibrancy colors. So I can adjust the contrasts, also the midtones, the highlights. It actually helps to achieve a very nice and saturated picture before you even go to the post-production. I know maybe I'm being weird, but this is how I work in most cases, because I try to achieve the most beautiful picture inside Cinema 4D and do less work in post-production, if it makes sense. All right, another thing I would like to show you is this brilliant example. In this particular scene, I wanted to play around with surface attracts that I would use this hand object. So I took this hand animation. It has also a rig here, so where I connected the fingers, like all the joints were animated, and I decided to pick one particular frame I liked the most. Then I just converted these hands and made it editable, and then I had this object. So if I disable the camera and get closer to this mesh, you'll see that it is not very dense mesh, but that was absolutely fine and enough to apply the surface attractor modifier. And if we play the animation from the very beginning, yeah, you'll see how it looks. It moves beautifully along the arm and the wrist, just overlapping, intersecting in some areas, and other particles were just flying away because I increased the turbulence. So the speed and velocity with which the particles could escape the geometry were so intense. So it allowed me to get a very nice pattern in movements. So not all the particles were attached to the arm and the hand. Some of those just tried to escape the geometry. And I kind of like this effect. It just happens, I know, all of a sudden, and I somehow appreciated this effect because it brought more variation in the end look of this composition. And how I achieve that, so I think now I can just hide the hands geometry, and I'll just activate this. As you can see, I have very small, like little particle emitters here, and they were attached to the tips of the fingers. And this is how it looks. So I had one emitter connected to the big finger, to the thumb, to the ear, to the index finger, middle, etc. So we had, I think, like 5 emitters. And if we check here, the start frame differed. So we have like different start frame, because I didn't want all the particles shoot at once, all at once. It would look that intriguing. Then to start the animation from the index finger, and then we have the middle finger, and then we get to the thumb, and we have a little storytelling here, narrative, if we can call it like that. So the index finger starts here, and to be fair, I think I also was inspired by Michelangelo. That's why we have this like this position in hands, like touch of the god, like this. And the most beautiful part of this simulation is that how the particles try to like make like little groups and follow in the flock. That's why I decided to use the flock modifier here as well, because it somehow groups the particles instead of just having the random simulation, just having particles dispersed across the geometry. We have like little tendrils of particles moving along the way. So in this simulation, I had these settings where the strength was not 1 but 0.5. Cohesion strength, I think I slightly increased it, and the radius. So instead of having many little groups of particles being connected to each other, I had fewer number of groups, but with larger radius. and that helped me to achieve this look. So if I go back to the camera and go to the Redshift render view, we'll be able to see the results of it. This looks pretty nice, I think. The effects is very beautiful. I had two particle groups here. I had the main strands, just a white color, just plain white color, and I had another one that were connected to the other particle groups, because I wanted to add like little fireflies moving along the geometry. Because if I turn this group off, where is it? It's been a while. That's how it looks. It looks a bit flat because we have only the tracer. The tracer was generated from the standard MoGraph tracer that works just perfectly, and I just put it in. I just converted that into an Alembic file. Alembic file just works just wonderfully. I work with Alembic files all the time because you can do remapping with Alembic, so that you can slow down the animation, speed up, and the way the Alembic files are calculated in C4D is beautiful. I think it's one of the best features, as well as the jiggle modificator. I know there are like other designers who appreciate jiggle effectors, but I think Alembics in C4D are just wonderful. Honestly, Alembic files save me so many working hours, I think. Anyways, let's get back to the particles. Yeah, it's not about Alembics today.
I have to throw in my vote for.
Yeah, sure.
Just my vote for Alembics. It's always a good process to cache to Alembic when you have complex geometries and stuff like that. And one piece of advice I always give people: if you are caching a complex hierarchy to Alembic, put it under connect object, remove the weld, and it will give you it will give you a single geometry that moves frame by frame, and you can scrub and do all that stuff, and at least remove the headaches of I have to start the simulation from the beginning, I have to do this, and I have to do that. So once you've got one part of your animation fixed, cache it and move on to the next part, and so forth. Do you mind if we take some questions quickly?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
So the first question here is, does Flock work like push apart? The answer is one of the repel function sort of works like a push apart. Basically, what the Flock does, it does one of three things between each particle and all the other particles around it. It looks around the radius, and it either attracts a particle to another particle or repels. And the repel function, that's what will be like a push apart. And then you can align the particles so they move in a certain direction. So to a certain degree, you may make it work like a push apart. It takes a few iterations to pick up, but that will be it. Now, there was a question by Freddie. How did you use the Spline emitter in this particular group? That was your previous file. It was just if you can open the file again, and I think it was just a spline emitter. Your circle, I think it was the one with the vortex.
The vortex. Yeah, just bear with me. I'll get back to it. Yeah, I had the spline emitter, and I used the geometry, the circle. That's it.
Which is deformed. The circle is deformed with a displacer, right?
Yeah, with displacer. Yeah, and here also I decided to add a bit more numbers, like the intermediate points. So instead of using linear or none, I would just go to number 8, and I would just make more points and make the emitter a bit more dense.
Yep.
So instead of using just fewer points, I had like a very densely populated spline, and that's why I had the simulation looking like this. So
I've addressed that in one of my tutorials that shows that. So don't forget, everyone, go watch the tutorials. They have all the information you need. And if you don't find the information you're looking for, ask a question.
Yeah.
So let's go to another one. All right, this is the one. So this question here, why the spline emitter is a child of a particle group. And actually, before the show, I asked Vlad, I said, why did you put the emitter as a child of the group? I thought
Yeah.
Vlad knew something, some hidden feature. And actually, it's for just grouping purposes, to have things nice and
Yeah.
tight. Yeah.
Yeah, because as you can see, if we put too many particles, emitters or like modifiers, this is how we can localize and group the objects in my object tree. So I would have my structure less messy. So I would bring a bit more. I would just make it look more tidy.
Yep.
It just helps, and sometimes I also use the color just like this, and I would go to the layer manager, and I just can adjust the colors because it helps to visually just make one group more distinctive comparison to another one. So it's all about organization. That's it.
Yep. Organization. Name all your objects in the object manager. Create meaningful hierarchies and group
Yeah,
things so you know where everything is.
yeah,
Next one is, yes, the circle emitter is not a spline, it's a disk. Imagine it as a disk. If you want to emit from a spline, you use the spline emitter. Let's go down here. Blender, the best. Stand up and apologize all now. Let me stand up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, whatever software allows you to create, we have a great offering. Buy Maxon 1, and you can do anything you want, pretty much. And yeah, I love, and Vlad loves Cinema 4D. For everyone
yeah,
else, there's an abundance of software you can choose, but you don't get us. See that? See what I did there? You
yeah,
don't get our wonderful shows. But yeah, we are open here, and I'm open to challenges as well. So let's move down with a few other questions. So, are the new particles being seen from third-party renderers and so forth? Do you use any other third-party renderers, or are you just a Redshift fanboy like me?
I'm a Redshift fanboy. I've been a Redshift fanboy since late 2017. I used to work with Octane Render, but I decided to shift to Redshifts, mostly because of the pipeline, the workflow. I felt more comfortable with Redshifts. With the structure, everything worked. Was more, how can I say it? Like made more sense to me and logic. And you also had so many settings.
Yes.
You could fake reflections. You can exclude one light objects from another ones. And that back in the day, Redshift had that opportunity. I'm not sure if Octane has it these days, but I don't want to check it because you need time to dedicate. You need more dedicated time to other software. I don't have this time. I work solely with Cinema 4D and Redshift because it just works perfectly to me.
And again, whatever tool works for you. Now, as far as I know, all the
Yeah,
major third-party renderers do support the system, because the Maxon development team did something very, very smart. They actually created the particles as point objects with vertex attributes internally. So the technology to access that data exists. So I would consider it rather mundane for any good developer to do that. So as far as I know, all the major render engines do that. Now, in case you happen to have a renderer or something where you want to render your particles using something that, let's say, standard and physical render, they don't directly support particles. But what you could do is you can create a MoGraph cloner with little spheres and use multi-instances so that you can render a lot of them, and it will propagate all the appropriate data. So even in that case, you won't be as fast as Redshift, but you can still render your particles using MoGraph. Let's see what else do we have here. Alembics are essential. This is a comment by Yunal. Yes, and there we go. So Basil, which is one of our extremely talented developers. Flock separation uses fixed radius. There you go. So an idea. Please write it down on your notebook to use variable radii. Okay. What else do we have here? Another reply from Basil. Unlike reproduce, the other emitters emit unconditionally. It doesn't hurt to put them under groups. Yes. So what Basil is saying here is one of the most important things when you're using the reproduce. If you leave the reproduce on your root level of your Cinema 4D document, then it will reproduce on whatever particles it finds, including its own. So if you emit one particle and the reproduce emits 100 particles, on frame 1, you're going to have 101. On frame 2, you're going to have 10,000 and 10,100 or something like that. And then you can frame 3 times 100 and so forth. So always put the reproduce under a particle group so that it doesn't replicate on itself. Let's continue. Philip, that's what we're here for. Entertainment and some education. I'm glad you're having a good time. No Cinema 4D, no Noseman. Exactly. That's the point, right? You buy a Maxon 1 and it's an entertainment channel, one-man show or two people show. So there you go. We're getting answers here. VRay works with those particles. Thank you very much, Gutster. Phrase has, hello, Vlad.
Hello there. Almost like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. Hello there.
So question by Jesus Suarez. Jesus, how are you? Do you use Houdini at all in your work? You seem to be able to achieve everything you need with the Cinema 4D, which is great. Duh. What's the answer? Do you use
Cinema
Houdini?
4D? It just makes sense, mate. I actually can answer this question, and I'll explain my choice. Yeah, why I chose Cinema 4D. I had experience working with Houdini, but Cinema 4D is what I appreciate in terms of flexibility. It actually allows you to achieve certain things much quicker. And my pipeline and my workflow on the projects I usually work on, are those basically just designed to be done in Cinema 4D? Because I worked solely in motion design, computer graphics, animation. I worked with boutique brands, and it just happened that lighting, particle simulations, MoGraph, also the hair simulations. There are so many things I can achieve quite fast in Cinema 4D, and that actually speeds up the whole pipeline and the production of the projects, because I can achieve very beautiful compositions in a much quicker way. It's just my subjective opinion. I'm 100% sure, but this is how I work. This is my personal experience. I've been working with I've worked in Cinema 4D for how many years? Since 2010, and I found the interface very friendly. I tried other software, but I somehow ended up with Cinema 4D, and I've been a fan of it. The interface, the software, the simulation core had progressed massively in the last decade. And I have everything I need in Cinema 4D. That's the thing. When you choose software, you just need to define what your tasks are, what the field you work in, and what you want to achieve with your software. And it just happens that everything I want to achieve in digital art, in animation, motion design, can be done in Cinema 4D very quickly, very efficiently. And like I say, Redshift is just perfect for those purposes. So I hope I answered to your question. It's more about the personal preference. It works for me. I do what I do in arts, and I hope it looks beautiful. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, this is you just shared a common sentiment amongst the vast majority of our users. let's not be, I try to
Yeah.
frame things between two extremes.
Mhm.
You can always build the tools you want to use, right? That's a perfect analogy. If you're a hardcore
Mhm.
developer, you can sit down and create your own software. But let's say you had infinite time and you had a passive income and you just want to make the perfect software. But that's not reality. The reality is that you buy off-the-shelf products and you try to solve your everyday problems. There are different software does different things better or worse or somewhere in between. I believe that our offering, the ease of use that Cinema 4D allows you, saves you so much time to do 99.9% of what you want to do. And there are some excellent plugins out there if you want to extend your functionality. It doesn't mean that other software companies are making bad software. No, people are working very hard. But as a package, Cinema 4D, and if you value your time, I mean, I'm nearly 60 years old, right? I don't have time to learn other stuff.
Wow.
When you learn, yeah, I'm going to be 58 in a couple of weeks.
You
So,
look great.
oh, thank you, thank you. The cream, I put coconut cream on my head. So the idea being that sometimes it's worth learning more, and this is something that ties into our series DPP and ATT and all that. That a lot of the requests I get from users are because there's a certain level where certain things they don't understand, and once they manage to break through, they can do 10 times more things. If you invest your 10,000 hours into a single piece of software, chances are, it's not always 100%, but chances are you're going to be able to do more in that software than you can do if you divide your 10,000 hours amongst 3 or 4 different software. Now, it doesn't, again, it has exceptions, but the overall rule is become an expert at using the tools you require to solve the problems you're faced with. And different artistic styles require different disciplines. Let's throw up a few more questions here.
Mhm.
Here we have, hey Vlad, I know you're working as a one-man studio. How do you build up that kind of workflow and clients? It's amazing. Thank you, Janil, for complimenting our.
Thank you. What was the end of the question?
How do you
Time.
build up that kind of workflow and
I think the question is very interesting because when I try to explain to other people how I work, it's always a challenge to actually make a fine, very clear and straightforward explanation. It's not that easy because the way I work is quite niche, and sometimes the way I work is not quite how the rest of our industry works. Sometimes I'm very disorganized. I try to be very honest with myself. I think that some of the things in my pipeline are very unorganized. I can see some mess in my object trees, but I think the most important thing is the final look of the composition. When I work with the clients, I try to sell the final look, the picture, like the pack shots. If the client is happy with the final look, with the reflections, with the materials, with the geometry fidelity, and also how close and realistic the 3D stuff is to the real products, if I get it signed off, I can just come up with so many cool things for the rest of the projects. You just sell the final picture, the pack shots, and then you define all other scenes. My pipeline mostly is built on simplicity of each composition I work on. So it's mostly lighting. I think the sense of depth in composition and lighting. I think like those 3 key elements I try to focus on the most. And this is what actually helps me to deliver the products you can see in my portfolio. I sometimes don't go the difficult way. I'm not trying to create a very complicated scene that would somehow impress the clients. I try to deliver the story in the most minimalistic way, but very beautiful. So when you just pause the animation and you'll be like, oh, wow, it looks pretty nice. I would like just to make a snapshot, screenshots, and put it on my wallpaper. wherever. It can be your smartphone. This is the type of the sensation I try to get in my work. So it would look beautiful and sophisticated, but that also would be made with a few instruments. That's why when I went at IBC last year, I presented a couple of scenes, and some people were quite surprised how simple my C4D scenes looked. They were like, "Oh wow, we didn't know that you could achieve this thing using just a couple of like tools in C4D. It can be just one single sphere, it can be a cube, but the way you present this geometry and frame your composition with lighting, with shaders, this is how you can tell a story and just sell the beauty look to the clients. Sometimes the beauty is in minimalism, and this is my credo. This is how I work. But with particles, with the particle workflow, I try to just find some very beautiful shots, the composition. I can have a very strange and messy, unusual simulation, but if I use the camera wisely with, for example, this scene, or if you can see it on my screen now. So I had two light objects. I had one area light, just casting lights from above. I think like it was 38 degrees or 45 degrees from above, and I had one just casting light from below, because I wanted to achieve that very beautiful volumetric light that would basically just fill in the whole composition. If I just turn one light off, the composition would look differently. So let's see.
It would look
now
like
it looks,
yeah, it would look like something I would make. Right, exactly.
yeah, it looks pretty static, because that there is no, like, how can I say, like, there is no emotion in composition. It looks like a very very nice close up, like where you animate the granulars, maybe with the subwoofer, where the sound would be generating, moving the particles in this very beautiful pattern. But as soon as you turn on these lights, the composition comes to life. You can see the form of the particle simulation. You can see a very nice bloom that tries to escape through the darkness. And you have very nice bright spots. You have also some very nice vignette here that brings this depth in the composition. And this is what C4D is great about. Well, this is what I always insist on. This is the image I had. So I take this environment, I just switch it off, boring. Then we switch it on. This is what we get. And then I was literally scratching my head. How can I bring more vibrancy in this composition, in this scene? I played with color correction. And then I was like, oh, the black's a bit too dark here, the shadows. Why not using some bloom? Nice. And then I also can bring the optical setting and play with vignettes, because this area looks a bit overexposed. I can just tone it down like this. Bingo. It looks very nice, dramatic, beautiful. I can use so many beautiful words to explain simple things. This is the pipeline. So you just click a couple of buttons, checks a couple of boxes, and this is what you could achieve in C4D. Simplicity and how fast you can achieve such things. That's why I use C4D. I think that was my most efficient explanation.
The great thing is that you don't, at this point, you don't even need to cache. You just press the button, you see what you have, you do your look at development while you're developing your particles, and that the speed increase, it's amazing. The less obstacles you have when you're creating, the better it is for every art. So let's go to a few more important statements. Vlad, best of the best. I agree. So
Thank you.
now, C4D makes it easy to get 80% of the stuff. Houdini is more powerful, sure, but the things Vlad shows a trailer. Well, this is one of the things I was impressed. I did a lot of research. I did the tutorials. I did all sorts of stuff. And while I was looking at Vlad's setups, I was saying, that's simple, but I could never pull it off. I don't have the eye for that. So the focus is on doing something pretty, telling a story, evoking emotion. Those are the things for anything to look good. If you don't have those three things, no, it won't work, even if I sit down and do the most complex thing you can imagine. And that's the beauty of artists like Vlad, that you do something that is just plainly beautiful. Complexity is something that is not even required at the end of the day. Let me. Oh yeah, another question. Cineversity now the best place to learn new particles? Not only Cineversity. I think Chris Schmidt from Rocket Lasso did a 4-hour show and showed particle setups as well. We have dedicated the Ask the Trainer, the quick tips, and the Demystifying Post-Production for last few weeks, and moving forward in the future to particles. Lines of communication, Ask the Trainer, are open. So start from Cineversity. Watch all the other shows that people are putting out. I've seen a lot of content by a lot of content creators on various streaming services, YouTube and Vimeo and all that. And then just come to us with your questions so we can solve more things. Okay. What is this? So we have particles, we have pyro. What about liquids? What about them? That's my answer. So let's see. Jesus, I always love to hear that, because I've been procrastinating learning Houdini for years, and all the additions feel less inclined to do so. Again, if you need specific software, add it to your tool set. But my advice, and it's only my personal advice, the more time you put into a certain set of tools, the more you can extract and the more time you're going to save. So, Joey, great work on the promo, Vlad, saying hi from the other coast or something like that. Another question. What is the difference between X particles and C4D particle system? I would say around 10 years. That's the difference. About 10 years of development. Let's go. We still, the Maxon is actively, of course, working on these new technologies, very exciting and so forth. What the team has done is, insert in version 1 enough stuff so you can do a great deal of stuff and do it quite fast as well, and make it as integrated as deeply integrated as possible. I'm not implying that more advanced features are coming. I'm not saying that. So let's continue. Yeah, there's a question about pricing. I don't want to address that right now. Chad Perkins is asking, is that vignette a post effect? But you saw the answer already. It is.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, answered. And then Chad says, haha, never mind, answered. Okay. Let's see. Paul Everett.
Hi, Paul.
If anyone doesn't know who Paul is, you need to check him out. A plugin developer extraordinaire. You have no idea. So, what else do you have for us, Vlad?
Let's dive into another scene here.
Go.
Also, the first shots we could see in the trailer, where we had this beautiful, like the snow globe there, like the sphere with the little, like a kind of universe, like a Big Bang happening inside the sphere. This is what we had. So in this scene, I had 3 different particle groups. And also I had the tracer, like I mentioned, before, maybe 15 minutes before. I also baked a couple of tracers here as Alembic files. But we would like to just take a look at the particles. I would like to show you just the creative process. So I want to make various layers in our My Particle Summation, where I would have the main particle summation happen like this. Here I use the Turbulence, my favorites, one of the favorites. Like, you just drop the Turbulence, everything just looks beautiful here. I had 2 Turbulence effectors. One has a smaller radius, the scale. Another one has bigger one. And also I combine those with different strength. So let's imagine if we had the simulation with one single turbulence, you would have one scale of your noise pattern. And how you can actually bring a bit more fidelity in your simulation is just by applying one more turbulence, either decreasing the scale of it or increasing, and also the strength. It's all about your about you experimenting. Just you try to play with Cineversity and see what else you can achieve here. Another thing, I had the color mapper. The color mapper yet again was connected to the velocity. So as soon as the particles reach the higher speeds, they start having like the blue color. When the particles slow down and starts just dissipating, we had like the white color. And it's like the ever-changing animation, because the simulation what's happening since the very beginning of the timeline until the very end. This is the movement I had here. But I decided to also drop one more layer. So if I run the simulation from the beginning one more time, I had one more layer here. So basically just multiplying yet again and again, just bringing more and more layers. And also my particles here had like different scale. So one particle group was a bit bigger, but had fewer particles. This is the one I used for my trails. So the tracer was connected to this particle group. And this is how it looks. So we start simulating that. Nice. Looking good. And these tracers, one tracer was baked as Alembic from the parent tracer objects. Another one, I basically just duplicated that to bring a bit more density. I know it's a bit lame, just the work I did it, but sometimes this is how I work. I can just what I also did here, I also brought the twist modifier. So if I turn this off, you'll see the original trace object. Let me show you. So this is how it looked at the very beginning. If I turn off the camera, switch off, you'll see that the spline looked a bit too linear here. I wanted to bring a bit like distortion to it. So I decided to bring the twist modifier here to this, like that. So this is how it looks without the twist modifier. This one again. And with the twist modifier, you start suddenly getting very interesting patterns here. And I just liked the way it looked. It didn't have a certain like a purpose, except just looking great, looking cool. Because whatever I do in Cineversity, I try to make it look cool. And sometimes it happens accidentally, to be fair. Just an accident.
One little note here, just in case people hadn't noticed. So you are deforming your tracer using the twist. That works fine,
yes.
and Alembic and all that. Now, you could, in theory, deform even the particles, but not when they are live simulating. If you cache the particles, because now the particles are actually points, you can use on a cached particle group, you can actually use deformers. If anyone hasn't tried it, go try it, because you can do some interesting effects.
Exactly. And actually, this is what I like about the way the particles are being cached in Cineversity, because how many very cool opportunities, design like concepts and decisions you can make in the process just by having fun. The way I can explain my work is just having fun. So if having fun looks nice and cool, and it somehow solves the purpose of the project, it's great. I try to look at my work in a more simple way, because after working in this field for so many years, for 15 years, I would like to avoid this boredom feeling when you feel that you're pushed to work, not being creative. And with Cineversity allows me to stay creative. All right, this is the simulation I had here. Let's see if I can render it. So I think we'll start just from the one section here, this particle group. Let's see if it works. Because I created this scene a long time ago, and I'm not sure if it will pick it up. Oh, it looks like I have a little problem here with the colors.
Yeah, it could be your driver. Now let me go.
Yeah,
Go.
I think it's here because of the driver. Yeah.
There are a couple of questions. I'm showing my screen here. The first question, where was it? Lost it. One sec. First, this is a question I love. Is there a way to transfer particles to Houdini? I'm glad that people now want to transfer particles to Houdini. Yes, because the cached particle system is an ABC file. All you have to do is just Alembic. All you have to do is just import it in any software that supports Alembic and just use the available data. If you want to find out what that available data is, which I show in one of my tutorials, you just generate a few particles, get your particle group and say current state to object. And if you click on these, you see the name. So underscore, lifetime, underscore, all the attributes start with double underscore and end in double underscore. So we have lifetime, we have distance, we have radius, and we have age, which are floats. And then we have the vectors, which is angular velocity, alignment, velocity, and color. And as far as the index of the object, it's the index of the point. So you can transfer them to any software that supports Alembic points with attributes. So that's one question. What else? All right, let me show this one here quickly. Can you show quickly your shader for these particles filling in the sphere? Wondering if use the opacity. Now, if anyone's wondering what that opacity thing that Jesus is talking about, that would be if you go to this tutorial here on Cineversity. I'm going to post it for everyone, which I explain how to use the new Toon shader. It has an additive mode that allows you to render pattern. Whoops, that's me. It allows you when we first created it. Oh, shush! Stop talking, you guy. It's this one here, whimsical orb. In this video, we are going. Shush. This person talks a lot. I posted the wrong video. This is the video that shows how you go about rendering additive, which is rather interesting. And let me hide that question. So whimsical orb with additive emission. I posted that. And maybe Vlad can show us his setup in a second. What else do we have here? Le Bageur. Is there a way at present to get color data from an object or texture and transfer to the particles? Haha. That's actually an interesting topic. Okay, so I'm going to go very quickly to go and bring Big Man. For some reason, I have fascination with this Big Man gentleman here. Okay, so we want to emit particles with the color. Oops, right. So we want to emit particles with this color. Well, you can't do it directly. You can do it indirectly. So you can get a mesh emitter. So the mesh emitter is going to emit particles from the surface. And I'm going to just slow down my particles, so make them go 5 centimeters per second. And let's increase the number. Actually, I'm going to make it a shot with 100,000 particles. If you do want to get these colors, what you would do is you're going to add a vertex color. In this vertex color, you're going to use transfer fields, and in the fields, you're going to add a shader effector. So, oops, not a linear, shader field. In the shader field, you're going to load the image you have in your material. So this is now, and if it has a high density, if you put it under subdivision surface object, then you get a higher density vertex map. So I can set this to 3 and 3. Now, because of this, and let me tell the mesh emitter to emit from the subdivision surface object, you can go to the surface, and in the property maps, you can say color, use this vertex map. And now, if I turn off this, you will see that, look at that. So Mr. Big Man is, he needs to go on a diet, but that's how you do it. Good. Color data, that's answered. Vlad, what are your specs? All right, I'm going to switch back to your screen, if you allow me.
Yeah.
And what are your specs? I'm personally on an RTX 5000, which is a 2080 speed. What are your specs?
Are you sitting, right? So I'm now actually recording from a laptop. I work from a laptop. I did this Maxon project on a laptop. And this is probably one of the best promotion of the ways how I can promote Cineversity, because I work all the time from the laptop. I'm now on a mobile RTX 3070. That's it. I have nothing else. Just a microphone and the camera that is now recording my very old face. And that's it. I also have a mouse and keyboard, and this is my setup. Also, my laptop has 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I think it's 3 years old, almost 3 years old. It's pretty dated machine, but it actually works. It serves its purpose. And this is what I like about doing on my work and laptop, because I've always been surprised to see other people traveling around the world and doing their work. And I always wondered if I could be able to do the same. Would I be able to pull it off? Is it even real? And the answer is yes, it is possible. This is how it works. So my setup is pretty dated. Maybe I'll buy a new laptop. We'll see how it goes. I'm like Ellie Wade. She works from MacBook, if I remember correctly, from I think MacBook with M3. My laptop is a bit slower, I suppose. But as you can see from our stream, it's actually possible to do this work on a laptop. I know, I just got used to it. It was a very long monologue, so my apologies.
Don't worry. So we are overrunning by 10 minutes. Vlad, do you have anything else to show us? Any closing statements?
Yeah, the last scene. The very last thing. Yeah, it's one more scene with the sphere. I'm just, as you can see, I'm just running everything. Here, I wanted to tackle the particle change stick effects. So we have like stick here, another one. So for two particle groups, as I mentioned before, I group particles just to have a bit more organization. I had one particle layer where the particles were just like little like peas. Another one layer had some emission, and on top of that, I had the tracer objects that was connected to the particles, and this is how it looks. The stick object in combination with collides works in a very interesting, sophisticated way. So you can change in our stick. I can also change the radius and the strength. The higher the strength, the more powerful the effects would be. So the particles would just stick to the object and they would move. Here, I decided to decrease the strength and also increase the strength. The radius. So the radius defines like the moments when the particle gets attached to the objects. And here, with some easy collision, I increase the bounce. So the bounce allowed me to have that little bounce effects when the particles gets close enough to the object, then it just literally snaps. But because of the bounce and because of the collision, and has like a little bounce effects. So if I run the simulation without the tracer object, you'll be able to see here. I think I can just also move the camera here. Let's run the animation, the simulation, very quickly. So the particles go from this way, and as you can see, they start bouncing. So I go to quick shading, I just disable the materials, you'll be able to see it. As you can see, the particles kind of bounce and try to collide with each other, and it brings these organic movements in collision. To be fair, I had this just discovered just accidentally all of a sudden. I don't know. This is what I'm talking about. You just play around with C4D, you can come up with very cool looking things. Not even like instant, but cool, because it's just like a little playground. And if I go back to the Redshift render view, yet again here I had my just 3 light objects. One light object was responsible for the fog. So we had like a rim light illuminating the sphere from the back. I also had the backdrop volumetric lights. How I did it, I just went to the settings. These two area lights had 0 volume effects. This is how you can just manage the lights. If you don't want the whole composition being overexposed, you can just turn the volume off in your Redshift lights details section. And here it has the volume set at the level of 0.1. That's it. Or it can be like this or like this. So you can just play around and have fun. And yet again, in my camera, I has the depth of field activated. So the bokeh, this is the bokeh I had. I'll just duplicate this camera. I'll turn this off. So if I turn off the bokeh, the composition will just look quite boring. Yeah, so you don't have any depth in your scene, but as soon as you turn this thing on, and you can even decrease the aperture, you start getting a lot of depth in your composition. And this is how I made this scene. Relatively easy, very, very quickly. I think I made this scene in a couple of days, but it looks pretty cool when you turn everything on. So now you have the trails, the traces following the simulation, and just 2 meters. That's it. I think that was the last thing I wanted to show. So I think we tackled many different modifiers of the latest C4D Particles system. I can't wait to see more updates coming from Maxon. It works. What I like about the particles, the last thing I want to note it is like GPU accelerated. It's speedy. So this is what I appreciated a lot.
It is.
Yeah, it's speedy.
Well, having said that, Vlad, thank you so much for.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure and an honor. Thank you, everybody. Let me just share this. Go up in the chat and find all the links.
Yeah, follow Maxon tutorials. Sorry for interrupting you. The Maxon tutorials. Just follow this thing. Like Early Waits and Jonas are my favorites. Like if you have any questions regarding C4D, the particles, those 2 people are my favorites. I haven't seen a lot of content, but I know Jonas and Ellie personally, and the way they just deliver their ideas is flawless. So follow Maxon, follow the guys. Yeah, C4D team, Maxon team has so many beautiful, amazing tutorials. So you'll find it on their YouTube. Yeah, sorry. Getting back to you.
So again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Vlad, and we'll see you, I think, next week. So take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.